And I think of him as a combination of a mad scientist, Bill Nye the Science Guy, I suppose, Andy Griffin.
I ended up meeting Barry in January of 1988, or when I first came to Goddard High School as a student teacher. He had a presence about him. We always said Schartz's bark was worse than his bite. And he carried a demeanor about him that at first put a little bit of fear into you. And then as you got to know him, you realized what a puppy dog he really was underneath it all.
I grew up in central Kansas on a dairy farm. I was in 4-H for 12 years, then went on to K-State for undergraduate and went to graduate school, and then started at a little school called Nashville Zenda, taught there for 8 years, and then came into Goddard after that and spent 22 years there.
And he really was dedicated to student learning. I know there were sometimes students thought he was too tough, parents thought he was too tough. He would talk to them, he'd work with them, he'd be available anytime. And as students went along, then they started realizing that.
They feared him when they came in, they loved him once they were there, and they would do anything to make him proud.
I think one of the most defining parts of his career, I think, for him would have to be his involvement in the Teacher in Space program.
Barry was one of the 2 finalists from Kansas, and the day the Challenger blew up, I was in my dorm room with everybody and we were watching, and they were interviewing Barry on, I think, Channel 10 we were watching at the time. And I put a mental note in my head as I watched him that day, saying there's somebody I might want to learn from and teach with.
One of my other favorite memories about Mr. Schartz, it's a little silly, but again, because we shared our love of space, he had a tile from the space shuttle, and I just thought that was amazing. Day after day would have interesting things and pull out, different ways to explain a topic. He just was, like you said, a once in a lifetime teacher.
His impact continues yet today, many, many years after his retirement. And he was instrumental, along with Mary Lee Ramsey in the science department at Goddard High School, in creating a nationally recognized outdoor classroom that we take our biology classes out there, explore different avenues out in that area. And
He ran the science club, and his sponsor oversaw a science Olympiad. He was always involved in that. He'd be here at 7 or 8 at night. Best robotics competition, space settlement design competition.
I had been able to travel with Barry. I went to National Science Olympiad in Chicago, and so he gave me those opportunities, and I went on a trip to Honduras with him and students, but we stayed in Roatan. We had access to the beach, we snorkeled, and some of the kids actually dove. I mean, Barry's a certified scuba instructor as well.
it just blows me away that some of the things that we were able to work with students on, and just to see those students excel and move on to great areas in life.
He's probably one of the Dos Equis guy? Stay thirsty, my friend. He's kind of like that, the world's most interesting man. He does so many things.
And since retiring, my wife and I have enjoyed traveling all over the world. We have been to over 70 countries. We've been on all 7 continents.
His bucket list was to climb every major volcano in the world, and he's done it. He's relentless, he never quits learning. And that's a contagious thing that goes off on other people. His students picked up on that, and they became that way. I picked up on it, and I became that way, and I still run my profession that way to this day. I think that's one of the greatest qualities he has.
I think Mr. Schartz is deserving of this Hall of Fame award because he is what it means to be an excellent teacher. He inspired and shared that passion for science. I feel very fortunate to have had him in school. I think you could probably interview hundreds of students over his career that would say the same thing.